Oh boy, growing pains can hurt, can't they, Tennessee? The Tennessee Titans entered the 2023 NFL season with a little bit of a sense of optimism. You brought in DeAndre Hopkins, you had Derrick Henry, and you had a solid quarterback in Ryan Tannehill for what he was at the time. But things came crumbling down whenever you really didn't see a lot of production out of Tannehill. He wasn't really looking as great, and his interceptions were way out of control. Looking at his numbers here, he had decent completion percentage at 62% for 1,100 yards in 7 games. Not hateful. And the thing is, though, 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, which is very, very concerning for a quarterback. When you're throwing 3 interceptions per touchdown, there's a problem. And Tannehill really showed this year that he's not the guy. You finally made the QB switch over to Will Levis against the Falcons, and you looked better. Will Levis is looking like he is a decent quarterback with a decent ceiling. He's really, I'm not lying. He's looking like a really decent quarterback potential, but you don't have a sense of direction. You don't really have much of a defense to speak of, and offensively, other than an aging DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry, who do you have? Tyjae Spears, who's really looking solid, but other than that, you don't have a bona fide wide receiver that you can go to and say, this is your QB, or this is your wide receiver 1. He's your go-to man for the next 5-10 years. You don't have that. And you aren't really looking like you're going for that. You're looking like you're trying to compete now with a roster that's not built to compete now. Meanwhile, you're looking like a team that is trying to build for the future, but also trying to compete now. There's a problem there. You can't do both. You can't build for the future and compete now. That's not going to work. You gotta pick a lane. You can't be riding, it's just like you're driving on a 2-lane highway. You can't drive in the middle of the 2 lanes. You gotta pick a lane. Are you gonna try to compete now with Ryan Tannehill or Will Levis and try to build around him with current stars? Or are you going to try to build for the future? Pick up some young guys in the draft and young guys in free agency with potential. You're not doing that. You're doing a little bit of both, and it's not really beneficial. It shows in your guys' record. You guys are not looking great, and you are 5-9, last in the NFC or the AFC South, and you're not really looking like a good team with potential in the future. Yeah, you have a rusher that's on track for 1,000 yards and a receiver on track with 1,000 yards, but other than that, it's a huge drop-off. After DeAndre Hopkins at 898 receiving yards, you have Chris Owonkwo at 359. That's a problem. If your offense is a one-trick pony and you don't have 2 receivers at least over 500 yards after week 15, you've got a problem. Same thing with your rushing. I mean, you have Derrick Henry at 875 and Tyjae Spears, who's been looking a little bit better recently at 358. But overall, you're not looking like a team that has options. If you shut down Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins, you're going to easily beat the Titans. You're going to steamroll them. And that is something you can't have if you want to compete now. If you want to compete in the future, that's fine. But then you shouldn't have brought in DeAndre Hopkins. So that's what I'm saying. Tennessee, you got to pick a lane. You can't play both lanes. It's not going to work, and it's going to set your franchise back 5-10 years if you try to do that for much longer. Please pick a lane and go with it. Either compete now or compete in the future.